Hey, so here we are in Arrays and Loops homework assignment, and we are on the last page, the very last one, while loops. That's page 18 in Arrays and Loops. And while loops can be a little bit dangerous because they can put your computer in a state where it just keeps spinning out of control if the conditions are never resolved, basically. So a while loop works, so you just type the word while. And then these are the conditions. So while these conditions are true, then just continue to loop through and do this stuff again and again and again and again and again. And so you can see how computers, being as fast as they are, can do this like super duper fast, and it can just kind of spin out of control if the conditions are never resolved. So you need to write them a little bit carefully so that you're sure that they resolve. So just be careful when writing while loops, or you might have to force Xcode to quit and then restart. Usually a force quit on a Mac you can kind of do. Typically you'll be able to like right click over something, and sometimes it'll say force quit. Right click over the icon down here at the bottom. Or there is a keyboard command, what is it? And the keyboard command is Option Command Escape. Option Command Escape, you tap that, and then you can close your force quit your apps. That's just if you accidentally write a while loop that goes out of control. Okay, so now that we've gone over that, and we can see they show you a while loop here where there's a condition that is met. In this case, x, which is 1, is less than or equal to the factorial number to calculate, which is 7. Then they do some math stuff here, and while loop through that. See, I don't understand why Apple occasionally will throw in some complicated math to try to teach some coding concept. So let's go ahead and continue down here and try to solve this one. It says write some code below to iterate through the Alice messages array. And right away, this bugs me, because where is this Alice's message array? It's not anywhere on this page, right? It's hidden, so Apple will sometimes hide things. So if you want to see how they hide it, you can go to the editor here and you can show raw markup, and that will show you the raw markup behind it. However, you still don't see the array, right? Do you? It's not even there. So there's other things that are resources that are used inside of these playground files that you don't always have access to. Ah, here they are. Sources, Alice messages. Let's take a look at that and see what is it exactly. Message builder, messages literal. So here are all the messages. It looks like it's an array of strings. That's what I wanted to know, is well, what is this array? Alice messages is assigned to an array of strings, and it builds those messages from this file here. Okay, now that I've satisfied my curiosity, let's go back to the page. Let's turn on markup again, show the rendered markup. There we go. Okay, so there's an array of strings. And this array of strings is called Alice messages. So we should be able to pretty much just print Alice messages here as well. It may or may not print the whole thing. Let's see if I can change my Xcode here. I am clicking and holding this stop button here to try to switch it off of automatically executing, because you see my Xcode playground is spooling out of control here. It's not working, so I go up here and I'm going to choose stop playground, stop it, and then click and hold here to manually run it. Typically that helps my computer. While it's thinking about that, let's read through these instructions again. Write code below to iterate through Alice messages array, which is an array of strings, until the first time you encounter a message for the given character. Then print out the index of that message and exit the loop. For the given character. What's the given character? See, this is also assuming that you know the story of Alice in Wonderland, right? So that's really crappy. I'll say maybe Alice or Caterpillar or something like that. Then print out the index of that message and exit the loop. Don't print anything if the character isn't found. don't print anything if the character isn't found, then, well, then how do you know if the application executed? I'm going to ignore that part, and I'm going to print something if the character is not found. Character is also a weird word because character can mean letter. This is just going to be a whole YouTube video of me being annoyed with this Apple exercise. Use a Boolean variable to keep track of whether you found a message and an index variable that you increment in the loop. Make sure to test your code with names that won't turn up any messages to account for potential bugs. Your conditional will be a compound Boolean expression. So this is like compound Boolean expression. I assume they mean there's going to be a couple things we have to check against. So this, I will happily post this assignment publicly to YouTube because I'm annoyed by it. Okay, so basically what we're going to do is we're going to check for Alice at first, but then I also want to check for Billy Bob, or someone that is not actually in Alice in Wonderland, and I also want to check regardless of case. So like if it's spelled with capital A or a lowercase a or all in caps, I don't want to have to worry about that. So it wants us to print the index of that message and exit the loop. Okay, so sometimes I like to do that is just write out what we're going to do here. And it looks like my Xcode is being a real pain in the butt right now. So I'm going to actually stop, quit Xcode, close this out. I'm going to actually completely close Xcode now. So go ahead and completely close Xcode, quit. It's gone. Open it up. Oh, Xcode. I'll double click on this to launch that one. Okay. Now click this. There we go, finally. Just kick and scream until Xcode works. And it's printing the whole thing, which is, we don't want that, so I'm going to comment that out. I just wanted to take a look and see what we're working with here. So we got to set up some properties to check, right? So the first property we're going to check is the character that we're going to set. Called the character, right? So a message for the given character. So because we printed this, we can kind of see, it's like, how do we know if it's a message for the given character? Like they don't tell us anything about this Alice message array. I assume we're just going to search for the word in strings, right? We're just going to look and see if it's cat or Alice, or March Hare is another one. So let's do the March Hare. So I'm going to Command C, copy that text there. So let character equal, assign it to March Hare. Oops, I didn't properly copy that apparently. March Hare. And there we go. So I've assigned a character March Hare. And this is what we're going to be looking for. Then it also wants us to create a variable called index, which is just the index in the array. Again, the index is like the position in the array. So which item? In this case, we've got an array with, let's see here, print Alice messages dot count. So let's see how many things are in this Alice messages array. What is this? Oh, this is their thing up here. Let's get rid of that. And let's try again. So there's 340 messages to sift through. That's not too many. Honestly, you could do this with a for loop, but they want us to use a while loop. So we're going to use a while loop. And then we want to check to see is found. And assign it to, no, it's not found yet. So character is found, then we bail. So what we'll do is in our while loop is we're going to set is found to true once the conditions are met. And then we're going to spit out the index that it's at. So let's see here. First I'm going to say while is found is equal to false. That's the first thing. And I'm just going to make this while loop now, and I'm going to return true immediately because I don't want my while message spinning out of control. Oh, I don't have to return true. I have to say is found is equal to true. So I'm setting is found to true immediately. So it says while is found is false, then loop through, it's found, and then it just kind of bails out. So I'm just doing that to protect myself so that while I'm writing this code, it's not going to spiral out of control, even though I have to click play in this case for it to execute. It's probably not a bad idea actually to set your thing to manually run when you're making a while loop, because otherwise while you're typing your code, it's going to be executing and you could easily break your X code. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to write this check to see if ls messages contains the character for this first little for the first object in ls messages. Here, let me just do it and you'll see what I mean. If ls messages at index, in this case index 0 because it's the first one, it's just assigned to 0. So ls messages at the 0 position dot contains, and then the contains is going to be if it contains the character, right? Now, I did want to also make sure that regardless of case. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write this in all caps, March Hare, all caps, and then ls message at the index, and we're going to uppercase that whole message. So I'm going to make this whole message uppercase in all caps. So the whole message there is going to be uppercased. If it contains the character, then do what? Then return true, right? Oh, that's right, we're not returning things. We're just saying is found equals true. It found it. And it also wants us to print the index. I'm going to do this above is found, because if I do it below is found, it's like, oh, it's found, and it stops everything. Stops the press, everything's found, so print index above it, so that way this print happens first. And I might make it more expressive, like, okay. So this is just going to check the first one, the index, the first 0 index. And if not, I'm just going to print, for now, nope, didn't find it. And again, I'm returning this is found true at the bottom there because I don't want it to just keep spinning out of control. Nope, we didn't find it. So it's not in the first one. Let's actually print ls messages again and see what is in the first one. See if we can get it to spit out a yes. So I'm scrolling all the way to the top of this array, and in the first array, Alice is the first word. So I'm going to change March Hare to Alice. And now we'll run it again. It says we found Alice at index 0. Perfect. Okay, so it's kind of working, right? But right now it's only checking the very first index. So how do we make this index, well, 0, 1, 2, 3? Well, it's a variable, so we can change it. So down here, down below, we're going to say index. And the index will then equal the index plus 1. Right, we're just going to add 1 to it. And again, there's a fancy way to do this. You get rid of this word here, and then you flip-flop these. Boop. So it says plus equals 1. That's the same thing. So it means we're just going up in 1. And it's going to keep going up in 1. But the problem is it's going to get here is found. So let's read this. While is found is false. And it's going to say, nope, didn't find it. Index 1 is found true, and then bail. So we really ultimately will have to get rid of this here, our safeguard. But now the problem, this should actually technically work right now. Let's go ahead and see. Well, Xcode's being a pain in the butt again, so I'm going to close it out again and reopen it. Okay, let's see if this works. So I've closed Xcode, reopened it. We found Alice at index 0. Okay, let's try the March Hare. And nope. And there it is at 318 index. Now this code works, except the big problem is I'm going to demonstrate how you can break stuff if you check for Billy Bob. Run it. It should be like, nope, didn't find it, and then crash, right? Because we get to a point where it's at the index of 341 or whatever, and Alice Messages doesn't actually have that index. That index doesn't exist for Alice Messages. So there's a couple ways you can solve this, right? We can check to see that is found is equal to false and Alice Messages dot count. So we're going to check the count. So, and we want to compare it to the index. So the index is what, like less than or equal to Alice Messages count, something like that. So that way if it gets over, if index gets over Alice Messages count, then it should bail. Let's give this a try. Actually, I think it's just less than, not less than or equals to. Less than, there we go. And there we go. Now it's not crashing. Now it's checking while is found equals false. Now, I don't want to like print nope, didn't find it 340 times. But I also would like to know what happened. So like in this case, it worked, but nothing showed up down here, right? It's not very expressive. It's, you know. So how do we do that? Well, let's take, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to write one more if statement down here, because I'd like to be able to print something that says we did not find that name in that story. So if index is equal to Alice message.count, so it gets all the way up there, then we can print nope. So let's see here. This might work or it might not. Okay, let me check to make sure it's compiling. Yeah, it's not actually working yet. I think because this, see, the problem we're running into is when we increase the index over 1, then this code gives us a hard time, right? Because it's going to bail as soon as we increase it. So what we can do is we can check to see if index plus 1 is equal to Alice message count. So we're not actually increasing it. We're just saying, hey, if the next index is going to be if the next index up So where it's easy to get confused here, which is what I was just confused about, is it says that it executes this 340 times, but my code here is checking, and it's at index 339, right? So the confusing part is because the very first item is at 0 index. So it's going to run 340 times, but this last one, the 340th one, is actually going to be called index 339. So that's why I was a little bit confused there. But this should actually be some pretty decent code, I believe. So let's go ahead and do some testing and see if this works. I'm going to kind of clean it up a little. I don't know, whatever reads best for you. Maybe something like this, like kind of the way it was, is actually better. So there's this if message here, and this one checks the current index for the character name, and the next one, so it checks that we're not at the last item in the array. Because if we are at the last item in the array and we add 1 to it, then our logic here will bail out. Okay, so let's go ahead and run it and see. We're checking right now for Bob's Bob's doesn't exist. Okay, great. What about Alice? And you know, I'm kind of doing this a little wrong. So we found Alice at index 0. But what about this, Alice? So what if you spell it like that? It's not going to find it, right? Nope, we didn't find Alice in the message. The problem is, because what I should really do is, when I'm checking the uppercase string, why don't I just change this to uppercase too, the character to uppercase also. That way, when I'm typing stuff out here, checking it, I also can't make a mistake. So there's Alice at 0, and then let's go ahead and look for that March Hare again. And the March Hare at 318. So this is some pretty good code. This will get us past this assignment. Again, while loops can be kind of dangerous and confusing, so don't get too stressed out. I don't use them too often, but occasionally you can find a good use for a while loop to continually check for something to be true or false, as long as it doesn't like bind up your system and put you in a state where you never exit the while loop. So if you have any questions about this one or any other assignments, send me a message. But until then, be safe out there and take care.